There are a lot of videos on how to plot or edit, or how to refine your story after you've written it. But how do you come up with ideas in the first place? A question I get asked very often is, how do you develop book ideas or get inspired to write? Finding inspiration is one of my favorite parts of the writing process. So here are my best tips on how to brainstorm awesome ideas. First, understand that inspiration isn't something you wait for, it's something you seek. A big misconception that a lot of young writers fall for is that you have to wait until you're inspired to write. Not true! While being inspired does help and can make the actual process of writing a lot more fun, you can and should learn how to write consistently, even if you don't wake up full of new ideas every day. But you do need inspiration to come up with an idea you want to write a book about. The easiest way to start collecting possible book ideas is by reading. Reading helps you become a better writer in many different ways. Reading helps teach you proper sentence and plot structure, but it's also great for inspiration. Whenever I read, I always have a notepad open so I can jot down scenes or ideas that pop into my head. This could be all sorts of things. Sometimes while reading, you might get a prediction for what might happen next, or get excited about the possibility of something that could happen. You may wonder about what motivates a character, or what type of backstory led them to the person that they are today. I've developed an entire book off of a stray thought I had about how the conflict in a novel I was reading might have looked through the villain's point of view. Everyone is the star of their own story. Just because a character thinks one thing about another doesn't mean they look at themselves in the same way. Lots of writers do this. Stealing inspiration from other stories is not plagiarism if you're doing it correctly. Taking the idea of a certain character or plot point and expanding on it in new and creative ways is basically the entire writing process. Almost everything is influenced by something that came before. I made a video on fan fiction that shares the roots of a lot of popular stories. I'll link it if you want to check it out. Now please understand, this is not the same thing as copying direct text into your story or using the exact same characters or world. If you'd like to delve deeper into a particular story, that's fine. That's fan fiction, like I mentioned earlier. But if you want to write a novel, you need to make sure your ideas are original. Reading is probably the best way to spark new ideas, but it's not the only one. My absolute favorite way to boost inspiration is listening to music. This not only helps spark new ideas, but it helps me stay in the writing mindset. So this is the closest I've found to helping you stay inspired while you write. There are many different ways to use music for inspiration. You can create playlists that remind you of your main character, their love interest, the world they live in. The list goes on and on. You can also create mood playlists to keep you sad when you're writing a death scene or excited when you're writing an adventure. Some people prefer to listen to movie scores or instrumental music so they don't get distracted, but I really connect with words. I like to read the lyrics the first time I listen to a song, and it's like reading a novel for me. Internalizing the story of a song helps me find new ideas or connect with my characters better. Like music, other forms of creativity are really great for inspiration. I'm not nearly as talented as some people can be, but there's a very cool trend going on lately of something called novel aesthetics. This is basically an artful photo collage you can make to give a visual reference for a character, location, or your entire story. I've also heard this referred to as a mood board. Here's an example of 2 character mood boards I created for my own story. I'll put them somewhere over my face. I like them. I feel like they're a pretty good summary of what my main characters are all about. It's really just creative procrastination, but it's fun. Jenna Claire from here on YouTube made a really good video on how to make these photo aesthetics. I will link to it in the description. The biggest tip I can give you is to have a centralized place for your ideas, even before you have enough to piece together an entire story. You can't trust your mind to remember tiny little details exactly as you meant them when you first thought about them. So try to jot down every little thought as soon as you can. Not everything will turn out into something bigger, but if you're anything like me, you may find rereading old notes is a form of inspiration in itself. It's really exciting for me when I figure out that a note I wrote 2 years ago is foreshadowing for a plot point I only just figured out. Another fun method to brainstorm ideas is talking them out with a friend. When you've looked at the same story over and over again, it's hard to look at it without some sort of bias. Talking over potential plot choices or talking through a problem you just can't figure out almost always helps in at least lowering your stress levels, if nothing else. 2 minds are better than one. Someone with less experience with your story might have an alternate viewpoint you hadn't considered. I promise you that any good friend won't mind helping you with a project. I have a very awesome friend I've run book ideas past for almost 8 years. She's always open-minded and willing to help, even when I'm talking about the same problem in the same book for the millionth time. She's a lifesaver. Writing can be a very lonely job, so it's important to reach out to others whenever you can. It's important to make friends if you want to make a career out of it, because publishing is twice as stressful as writing is. So go out there and brainstorm. Let your imagination run free. The mind works in mysterious ways. Trust your ideas and see where it gets you. What's your favorite way to get inspired? Tell me in the comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you really soon. Bye.